We have an illustration here of a physical deformity, clubfoot, that was directly caused by hysteria. In other words, the mind affected the body. Once the hysteria was over, the deformity disappeared. Likewise, we have a situation where a Mr. Wright was very ill and close to death, yet his cancerous tumors shrunk to half their original size due to the so-called placebo effect. He believed that the medicine was effective, and when the belief ran out, he died soon afterwards. In both of these cases, a belief held in the mind influenced the physical body in a significant and measurable way. I've mentioned in my Secular Science of Miracles and Magic video that the stigmata can also be caused by the belief of an individual. The placebo effect is understood by science and categorized as a natural phenomenon. However, cases as dramatic as Mr. Wright's are out of the ordinary. When we apply the use of belief to other areas, can we still call it the placebo effect? For example, when people use mental rehearsal, imagination, instead of physical practice to learn to play the piano. Likewise, people can increase their arm strength through repeated sessions of imagining that they are flexing their muscles as hard as they could. So if someone is stronger than they normally would be during a possession, is it possible that this ability existed beforehand in an untapped state? There is also evidence that some degree of psychic ability is possessed by everyone. There are stories of possessed people talking in languages that they didn't know beforehand. So I have to ask, is it necessary for a demon or spirit to enter a person for this to happen? Or is it the case that under the right conditions, it may be possible for a person to have his natural psychic abilities triggered in a way that allows him to speak in a language that he does not normally know? Specifically regarding the abnormal strength question, an exorcist has explained that when someone suddenly develops Herculean strength, that is not always a genuine case of demonic possession. This further reinforces the conclusion that abnormal strength does not necessarily have to come from an external inhuman source. This exorcist also consults with a psychiatrist, as mental health issues frequently overlap with possession. The fact that these two issues tend to overlap is quite meaningful. A psychiatrist who helps distinguish between mental illness and possession states that psychiatry is a science and that the devil is a religious belief. As a physician, he can use the tools of science and the knowledge of psychiatry to explain some symptoms, but if there isn't an explanation for everything, then there is obviously something that goes beyond standard psychiatry that is going on there. It is a reasonable statement that unnatural behavior and superhuman strength that falls outside the explanations of psychiatry does not absolutely have to be caused by a spiritual being that used to be an angel but was cast out of the heavens due to disobedience. The assumption that what we call demonic possession can only be caused by fallen angels comes from religion. Many religions have given different answers as to where demons or evil spirits come from, so we should admit that there is significant religious disagreement on this topic. If we wish to know the truth with certainty, it would be best to put faith and belief to the side and thoroughly investigate the matter in a way that gives definite answers. Letting gaps in science be filled by religious beliefs is fairly dangerous from a historical perspective and from an individual perspective. We know that people die during exorcisms, and we know that people die from a lack of understanding about the cause of disease, as we mentioned before. Christianity has a bit of a problem in that there is no explanation within the Bible for why true Christians can be possessed by demons. If God is all-powerful, it would make sense that he would give his believers complete protection from evil. An attempt is made by this author to square the circle by saying that Christians can only be demonically oppressed, and this isn't true possession. It is also stated within this paper that repentance from sin and earnest prayer are vital to lift such oppression. However, the problem still stands that we can observe that Christians can become possessed. The Bible specifically says that if you submit to God and resist the devil will flee from you. If it was this simple, then exorcists would only be needed for atheists and people of non-Christian religions, as Christians already submit to God and resist the devil. During the Middle Ages in France, there was an alleged epidemic of demonic attacks. Many women, most of whom were nuns, said that they had been attacked by the devil and found that neither prayer nor fasting was helping. These attacks included bruises appearing on the women that were clearly hoof marks. This incident was described as being caused hysteria by this author. So from the Christian perspective, if we categorize this as demonic oppression, we would expect that submission from God, prayer, resisting the devil, etc. would have solved this problem very soon, because God is supposed to be much more powerful than the devil. Hysteria by itself has been documented to cause bruises to appear on the body even in modern cases. Again, the mind is capable of causing changes to the body. There are more flaws within the Christian worldview, though. Indian holy men who are acting on behalf of Krishna, Chinese holy men acting on behalf of the Chinese god Shang-Ti, all have the power to cast out demons or evil spirits like the Christian exorcist can. Likewise, the spiritual medium Michael started using his, quote, angels and spirit guides to exorcise negative spirits or entities. Christianity sees the gods of other religions as being fake and demonic. Again, Christianity is biased in its beliefs in order to prevent people from considering other perspectives. Some people believe if you can cast out an evil spirit or demon in the name of a god, this proves that the god is truly a powerful one and cannot be considered a false god. If we use this train of thought, we might end up in some sort of polytheistic belief system. Considering that there are different religions that all believe in demons or evil spirits, there is a sort of universality to possessions and evil influences. What is really interesting is that research suggests that possessed people act according to their own religious culture. Possessed Catholics were horrified by objects held sacred in Catholicism, such as blessed objects and crucifixes. In comparison, Protestants considered material objects like these to be the sources of false worship. The result being that possessed Protestants reacted negatively to the reading of the Bibles, but were not really bothered with the physical presence of the Bibles. Obviously, the idea that demons might come in Catholic and Protestant denominations is rather ridiculous. According to Christianity, demons are supposed to have rebelled against God, so the need for a demon to make a specific distinction between different Christian denominations would be completely worthless and nonsensical. The Christian explanation of why demons exist simply doesn't add up. This information would then suggest that demonic possession is potentially a malevolent and self-destructive expression of untapped supernatural abilities. An alternative perspective is that under certain circumstances, a demon may be created or given individuality within a person, and that may explain why the demon shares the beliefs and cultural expectations of the person. An example that seems to support the theory of possible possession through belief is the case of Anneliese Michel. This obviously is one of the more famous and prominent demonic possession cases. She was originally diagnosed with grand mal epilepsy and became convinced that she could only be saved through faith. She did various unnatural things and decided to force herself to fast with the hopes that this would purge the demon from her. She was exorcised 67 times, yet these exorcisms obviously didn't help. Father Dan Reehil has stated that ever since COVID, the number of exorcisms has been increasing, and it takes longer now to get the demons out. He attributes this to an alleged increase of sin. In comparison, research done regarding exorcisms in 17th century France seems to suggest a link between profound social change and increases in exorcisms. If we apply this theory to the more recent rise during COVID, this is a good explanation, as we also experienced profound social changes during that time as well. Beliefs, particularly religious ones, have a tendency to warp a person's view of the world and prevent someone from understanding cause and effect. Most of the people who wanted exorcisms from two specific exorcists were non-practicing Catholics. Both the exorcists that were interviewed said that there was danger in practicing magic, black or white, and playing with Ouija boards, etc. Both of them said that Satanism was highly dangerous. Since both of these exorcists had some degree of Christian beliefs, we have to admit that there is some degree of bias here. If they had been raised in a culture or religious structure where the method of exorcism involved beneficial magic instead of the invocation of the divine, then obviously their beliefs would likely be different. Likewise, if they were raised in early New England, they might have used magic symbols in order to protect their homes and families from evil spirits and demons, despite the fact that the use of these symbols was discouraged by the clergy. Also, from the Navajo perspective, if you are weak spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, then you are vulnerable to demonic attack. As you can see, what people believe makes them vulnerable to or protected from evil spirits and demons is dependent on the culture and the beliefs that the person was raised in. If a particular religion or culture views something as evil and unacceptable, they will say that it can lead to all sorts of bad things, including demonic influence or possession. The list of things that can supposedly lead to possession can include natural human desires and the rejection of conformity, religious or otherwise. Bob Larson, who is apparently an exorcist, says that burning sage to cleanse a house will attract demons. His logic is that burning sage is witchcraft, and that means you can't get rid of the devil with witchcraft. His opinion has very little merit in my view. My view is that exorcism itself is a type of ritual in which a deity is invoked, and your will, along with specific symbols and words, is used to influence the demon in question. In other words, I view exorcisms and Christian prayer as a type of magic that Christians simply do not want to accept is magic. In addition, we have the story of one person whose experience with a pastor was very revealing. This pastor in question was quite ignorant, and his attempt at casting out demons was not only uncalled for, but was physically abusive. The congregants in this church did not interfere with this insane behavior, which tells you that they have been conditioned to accept it as normal. Some Christians will even consider engaging in contemplative prayer and visiting palm readers to be dabbling with the occult. This train of thought follows that dabbling in the occult inevitably leads to demonic possession or oppression. Likewise, it is stated that it is an abomination to God to seek answers from the occult. The idea that palm reading inevitably leads to demonic possession is ridiculous. Such ideas have been spread in order to keep Christians fearful and to prevent them from considering other belief systems. Finally, my research on this topic is not finished, but I have to make an endpoint somewhere.